Good Monday evening, everybody. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Thank you guys so much for joining today's live stream. We're going to be going over your May forecast for 2023. If you guys watched my video this morning, I definitely appreciate it. Make sure if you have not watched the video, go watch it, like the video down below, leave a comment down below if you have any questions or concerns about the forecast. I'll get to those later on tonight as well as tomorrow morning. I'll be answering those questions. And again, a great video, a lot to unpack. And we're going to be doing a similar thing here in this live stream tonight. We're going to be going over what I think will happen through the month of May. We're going to be going over your climate update, temperature, precipitation, severe weather trends, and also looking ahead to the tropical update. Will any tropical systems be developing through the month of May? We'll go over much of that in this live stream tonight. So be sure to ask any questions. I will answer them toward the end of the live stream here. So be sure to stick around. If I don't answer any of your questions, I'm just going over the information here. A lot of information to get passed along to you during this live stream, so hang tight. I will answer as many questions as possible toward the end of today's live stream, so hang tight, everybody. And I will be doing that. So enjoy the information as it's passed along. So first, we're going to be going over your climate update. We are in an ENSO-Neutral right now, but we are quickly transitioning to what we call an El Nino here in 2023, especially during the late spring and throughout the summer and fall months. So we'll get to that as well. And then, like I said, we'll go over your May forecast, break it down week by week through May, your temperature, precipitation, and severe weather forecasts and trends as well. And then we'll look at the tropical update toward the end before answering questions. Will any tropical systems be brewing for May? We'll get to those later on in today's live stream. But first, let's look at what's happening out here in the Pacific. So this is very important in looking at what type of climate we are looking at here. So we are transitioning, like I said, from an ENSO-Neutral to El Nino, and these are your current sea surface temperature anomalies. Wherever you see the orange or yellows or reds here, those are positive anomalies or warmer sea surface temperatures. Wherever you see the cooler colors like the whites, the blues, the deep blues, those are negative anomalies or colder sea surface temperatures. And that is what we're seeing. So across the equatorial Pacific, that is where we look for El Nino. And that you do see over that area, we are beginning to warm up rapidly west of South America here and the Central Americas. So we are seeing that transition to warmer anomalies, which means an El Nino is imminent within the next couple of months as we see the cooler air actually start to fade away in this region. So going all the way back to early February, we were in a moderate El Nino all the way back into late winter, but since then it has been a steady climb to an ENSO-Neutral, which is right at the zero here. And then whenever you get to positive values, you start talking about El Nino, and it's not a true El Nino until we get to plus 0.5. So we're not quite there yet. We're at plus 0.275 today, but we're getting very close. So over the next couple of months, we're going to see that transition, and when that does occur, we'll be firmly in an El Nino category. So you can see the climb, and that will continue over the next couple of months through the May month here and into June and July as well. So that will be a continuing trend that we'll continue to look at. And just kind of looking at the consolidation of all the climate models that we put together here and look at, this is from the Climate Prediction Center, and you do see that there are a lot of models clustering up at a weak to moderate El Nino status, and actually a couple models are more bullish and take this toward +2, which would be a strong El Nino. So there is still a lot of uncertainty of how strong the El Nino will be, but there is a lot of certainty that yes, we are going to an El Nino that is occurring with 100% certainty. It's just how strong does it get? Does it get to +1, +1.5, or +2? The jury is still out on that, but we are going to continue to watch that as we go through the months of May, June, and July. But I do want to encourage you guys, if you guys like detailed weather breakdowns and you're not a subscriber to Weather on the Go here, my YouTube channel, be sure to press the subscribe button down below. It's absolutely free to do, and you get detailed weather breakdowns each and every morning at 9 a.m. on this channel. We're at 29,805 subscribers, guys. We're 195 subscribers away from 30,000 even. So I would appreciate if you are not subscribed to the channel, definitely do so down below. lots of great information on this channel each and every morning. And I do encourage you guys to press the like button on my videos each and every morning, as well as this live stream. So if you've not pressed the like button or the thumbs up button down below, please do so. I definitely appreciate it. The more likes we get, the more people who join the live stream and watch my videos in the morning. So I definitely appreciate that as well. So let's go over the climatology real quick of May. So this is your monthly mean surface temperatures. And again, this is older climatology, but it's still relevant to this day. So you do see down here across Southern California, around the Death Valley region into Arizona, that's usually typically where we see the warmest of our temperatures in the lower 48 during May. But it also warmer down here into Texas, the Texas Hill Country, the Rio Grande Valley, Southern Florida. And you see those oranges starting to push farther north into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic. So statistically or climatologically, May is starting to warm up across the lower 48. But now we got to look at our monthly mean precipitation output. So climatologically, the lower and middle Mississippi Valley here and the central and southern plains are usually the wettest during the May month time frame. And really anywhere east of the Rockies, we see those deeper anomalies for more precipitation during the month of May, and we start to dry out statistically across California, Nevada, and portions of the Four Corners. But I do think that this May will be unique, and it will be different than what you see here for climatology with the temperatures and probably even the precipitation as well. So let's show you what I mean. So going through this week, this is your 500 millibar height anomalies, and that's just fancy for showing you the troughs and the ridges across the United States. As you guys know, a trough brings cooler weather, unsettled weather, and a ridge brings the high pressure, the nice sunny weather, and the warmer conditions. And you do see there is a couple of troughs here, one on the east coast of the United States over here toward the northeast, the mid-Atlantic, and the southeast. And then we have another trough off across the Pacific Southwest here toward California. And then in the middle, we have that ridge spiking all the way up with building heights into Canada here, into the northern United States and the Great Plains. And this is what you call an omega blocking pattern. And with this type of pattern, you have the troughs bringing on either side of the country a lot of unsettled weather, a lot of colder weather. So that's why we have been colder across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and really much of the eastern two-thirds of the country. Really not just this week to start the week, but actually going back to late April as well. Since really about April 20th, April 25th, we've been kind of in this pattern. And we're really kind of stuck in this pattern, and it's called the blocking pattern for a reason, because there's not much movement in this weather pattern with that high pressure and ridge spiking all the way up into Canada, the northern plains, and much of the Great Plains region. So there's not much movement west to east with this setup. But as we go through the first week into May, so you do see that setup, the omega block. We do have the below normal temperatures favored again for the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and really just much of the eastern two-thirds of the country. And then we have the above normal temperatures out here across the west, and this is going to bring again those 70s, those 80s to places that are likely to probably only see 60s this time of year, but we're going to be above normal. So we're going to see some anomalously warm temperatures out here in the Pacific Northwest especially, and then down across the Central Rockies. So that will be something to note during this first week in May. This goes all the way through May 7th, so take that into account as well. So going through today, we already saw our high temperatures for the day in most of our areas. We saw the cooler weather again around the Central Great Lakes, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and on up into the Northeast. And with that pattern, again, the ridge spiking up across the Rockies, that's where we have the 70s and 80s out here into the Intermountain West and the Rockies, especially in those lower elevations. And underneath that, we start to see more warmer weather down into the Texas Hill Country, the Rio Grande Valley closing in into the 90s. And then again, the immediate Gulf Coast, that's where we see the warmer weather through the rest of today. But we start to shift this pattern just a little bit farther to the east by a state or two on Wednesday. So that ridge will begin to maneuver farther from west to east by the time we get to Wednesday, the middle of this week on May 3rd. And we start to bring those 70s a little bit farther to the east. So places like Des Moines, Iowa, 71. Up here to the 80s we go into Rapid City. We're around 80 degrees for your afternoon high on Wednesday. We're into the 80s down here into the Texas Hill Country, down into the Rio Grande Valley, Lake Charles, those areas going through that Wednesday time frame. And then late this week on Friday, May 5th, that ridge begins to slowly move a couple more states to the east. It's a blocking pattern, so it will take time, but we will start to shift this pattern farther to the east ever so slightly. And look at this, guys. We got a little mini heat wave down here into Texas. Temperatures in the low to mid 90s on Friday, and this could be conservative for some areas. I know there's a lot of drought down here. We could be talking about maybe some upper 90s into West Texas, into the parts of Northwest Texas. So that will be something to watch on Friday. But look at the 80s. That goes all the way up into Oklahoma City. We're at 85, 83 into the Tulsa area. We're at 75 in St. Louis, approaching the 60s there into Chicago and on up into central Wisconsin there on Friday. And then we have to look at the precipitation forecast as well. So with all this warm weather, is there severe weather down the pike here? So let's kind of look at this and detail this a little bit for you. This is your 500 millibar, or otherwise known as your mid-level jet stream this week. And you can see there's not really a persistent jet stream that kind of looks very ominous across the United States. Like I said, we have the trough out here to the west, we have the trough to the east, and that ridge building in between. And when we have a ridge of high pressure building in the Great Plains, you don't see a lot of movement in the jet stream. Very calm weather just above in the mid-levels, and that's a lot of sinking air. So you're going to see lots of sunshine, lots of warm weather. We're not likely seeing much in the way of thunderstorms throughout the majority of this week. But I will note the total rainfall accumulation with these troughs on either side of the country. We will be adding up some rainfall up here across portions of British Columbia, Alberta, Canada, but also down across the Pacific Northwest. So Washington State, Oregon, much of California, especially northern and central California, Nevada here getting into Idaho and western Montana. Those areas will be adding up some decent rains going through the next week's time frame, a week from today on Monday, May 8th. We will also see some rising air underneath that ridge at times, but it won't be squeezing out too much rainfall. We got some thunderstorms possible later this week into this weekend. But again, we're not seeing anything that screams flooding, and actually probably seeing much more beneficial rains than anything else across the Central Plains. I know parts of Kansas, we have a widespread exceptional drought here. That is something we'll be keeping an eye on going through towards this weekend's time frame. But the other trough over here into southeastern Canada, so the Ontario region, over here in towards Quebec and the northeast and New England regions, we'll be seeing some wetter conditions, possibly some localized flooding going through early this week on Tuesday or Wednesday. That will be something to watch there for Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, getting down toward Boston there into Massachusetts. Maybe as far west as the Albany, New York area there into New York State and New York City, Long Island. Just watch out for some soggy weather, very unsettled going through the end of this week. But so looking at the precipitation outlook, this is this week from today all the way through May 7th. Again, with the above average precipitation expected here across the Pacific Northwest, parts of California down here into the central California areas, getting into Nevada here and the western four corners, in between, underneath that ridge of high pressure. Remember, there's a lot of sinking air. You have a lot of subsidence in this region, so you're going to see a lot of sunshine, a lot of warmer weather, so below normal precipitation overall for the week is there. Does that mean we're going to see no precipitation? Absolutely not. There will still be rainfall and thunderstorms in the Great Plains, but when you average the whole week out, I do think below normal precipitation is what we are seeing. And then again, that other trough will bring more above normal precipitation across the Great Lakes into the Mid-Atlantic and especially New England and the Northeast going through this week with above normal precipitation across those areas. Well, what happens as we go toward the middle of May, or at least the second week in May? So this is May 8th through the 14th timeframe, going right up to Mother's Day weekend itself. And it does look like over top, we're going to have a ridge build, and that continues to spike up here into central and perhaps as far north as northern Canada. And underneath this ridge, we're going to have some weakness in the jet stream. We got a strong subtropical jet this time of year, especially as we're getting into El Nino status with our climate pattern. So that means more unsettled weather underneath across portions of the California region, Getting into the southern four corners, and especially down here from the southern plains into the Texas Hill Country through the Dixie Alley region and the southeast, with the weakness in the jet stream down here going through the second weekend of May. So here is my temperature outlook of what I think will occur from May 8th getting into next week all the way through the Mother's Day weekend time frame. And I think we will be warming up in a big way. Areas that have been cold up here or chilly across the Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast will be seeing a change in the weather pattern, with above normal temperatures favored, especially from the Dakotas and eastern Montana through Minnesota there, the Twin Cities, getting through Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois here, and through the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, and again over here toward the Northeast. So this will be a welcome sight for a lot of people, as we are expecting this time of year. You know, it's May. We're wanting warmer weather. It looks like that will occur, especially getting closer toward that May 14th and that Mother's Day weekend time frame. But as I mentioned, underneath we have weakness in the jet stream. That subtropical jet is going to be activated again with the El Nino approaching. So we do have a below normal temperature pattern down here across California, the southern Four Corners region, getting into Texas here and the Gulf Coast states. Those areas will likely be at least slightly below normal or near normal in some areas with our temperatures during that second weekend of May. Will it be very cold? Absolutely not. We are into the second week in May, so it doesn't mean we're going to see highs in the 30s or 40s. It just means compared to your average high, we're going to be slightly below normal during this period across the southern United States as a whole. And the reason for that is because if you look at my precipitation outlook during May 8th through the 14th, I think it will be active up here, at least slightly more active than usual across the Pacific Northwest, the central Rockies down here toward Denver as well, with above normal precipitation through that second week into May, much more above average or above normal down here into portions of North Texas, into central Oklahoma, eastward through the Gulf Coast states here, Dixie Alley, getting into the Carolinas and North Florida. Those areas where we've seen a lot of rainfall of recent will likely see continuous rounds of heavy rain and possibly some severe storms with that mixed in, getting in toward that second week into May. But with that ridge farther to the north, we have subsidence moving in, lots of sunshine, so drier weather. Will it be an absolute drought up here? Absolutely not. We're gonna see rainfall up in the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. But I do think overall, when you factor in that whole week of May 8th through the 14th, overall it will be slightly trending below normal with precipitation across those areas there, especially into the eastern Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, on eastward there toward Maine. So that will be something to keep an eye on. But then as we get toward the second half of the month, now this starts to get a little bit more active, a little bit more interesting. So stay with me here. There's a lot to get to now with looking at the second half of May. So first, we look at the height anomalies, and this is just a fancy term for looking at the upper level winds in the jet stream and what the pattern is looking like. This is May 15th, so the day or so after Mother's Day weekend, all the way through May 21st. So we're getting into the third week now into May. And we still have that ridge up here into portions of Canada and the northern United States. And you see a little bit more of the whites down here, not totally blue, but that is trending a little bit more weaker down here again. So we're going to still see those troughs sneaking in underneath that ridge across the southern plains and the southeastern states. And what that means is, well, first looking at the temperature outlook during the May 15th through the 21st time frame, it is trending much above normal with our temperatures up here across the northern plains, the Midwest, and into the western Ohio Valley at least. And you can see there's no blue on this map. So during the third week in May, much of us are either going to be near normal, especially across the Pacific Southwest, the southern Four Corners into the Rio Grande Valley, or we're going to be above normal and possibly even much above normal across much of the lower 48 during this period into the third week into May. And this could coincide with some first 90-degree temperatures for places that haven't seen a lot of heat this year. There could be our first 90s up here into portions of the Missouri Valley or the Midwest, Ohio Valley of the season getting into this period. So that will be something to keep an eye on. But looking at the precipitation outlook during the May 15th through the 21st time frame, we will likely trend again slightly below normal up here across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. and even a few of these states down here into the mid-Atlantic. Does this mean we're going to see, again, more drought? Probably not. We're going to see some rainfall, so I don't think we're going to see any major droughts across the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, or the Northeast. But generally, when you factor in that whole week, it will be below normal across those areas. Looking across the western and southern United States, it's a different story. We see a very active jet stream out here across the northwestern, the Pacific Northwest, getting into the West Coast and into the Central Rockies. Likely seeing a lot of precipitation, a lot of rainfall out here, but I'm really concerned about the portions of the southern plains and the Gulf Coast states, the Dixie Alley region over here to Georgia, South Carolina. We have another period of well above normal precipitation, and when you factor in week after week after week of above normal precipitation and rainfall and some flooding rains mixed in, I think this could be an area to watch for some potential moderate or major flooding concerns with the saturated soils by the time we get in toward that third week in towards May. So this will definitely be an area to watch, especially from Kansas down through Oklahoma, North Texas, Arkansas here, and through portions of Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. I really am going to be focused on this area getting towards that third week into May with the saturated soils out there. But then now we go toward the last 7, 8, 9 days of May here. This is May 22nd through the 31st, through the very end of May. And this just locks in all over the United States. You see the orange anomaly showing up not only across western and central Canada, but also much of the lower 48 here into the United States and even down into Mexico as well. So this is going to bring an all-out heat wave, I do think, toward the end of May. So May 22nd through the 31st in this time frame, I expect well above normal temperatures, possibly even a record-breaking heat wave for this early on in the season is possibly on the table. So we definitely could be seeing widespread 90s up here into the Central Plains, the lower Midwest into the Ohio Valley, and some areas again up into the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Places like that could see their first 90s of the season getting in towards late May here. So that will be something to watch, with much of the eastern two-thirds of the country baking, I think, in the heat later on this month. And then we're going to have more weakness in the jet stream, troughs moving in across the West Coast. Those will sneak in down here into California, Nevada, getting into Utah and Arizona with below normal temperatures during this period. Will it be cold? Absolutely not. We're into late May. We're going to see temperatures just slightly below normal, but it will be a little bit cooler across those areas. Now, looking at the precipitation outlook for May 22nd through the 31st, it does look trending more above average, especially with these medium type greens down here across portions of the northern Rockies, the central plains, getting down into the Arklatex and the Missouri Valley. That is where we likely will see some heavier bouts of rain through the late period there of May. Anywhere in the white in between, that's just normal precipitation. I'm not seeing any below normal or above normal. Just kind of more normal precipitation during that period. But unfortunately, again, we will be trending slightly below normal with our precipitation outlook here for the Northeast, the I-95 corridor, and down into the Mid-Atlantic. So now I do think toward late May, we may have to watch out for at least some minor drought across portions of the I-95 corridor from Boston to New York City, down toward Washington, D.C., and even Virginia here, as well as we have multiple weeks in a row of slightly below normal precipitation that could definitely lead to a little bit of a drought developing across the Northeast. So that will be something to keep an eye on. But the areas that do trend a little drier in the western Midwest, in the places like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, they'll start to see more precipitation move in toward the late May period. So I'm not too concerned about any drought in those areas. It's just areas farther east across the I-95 corridor into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. We'll have to watch for what we call a flash drought, or a drought that develops very quickly towards late May. So let's look at the drought monitor. Since we're talking about drought, this is the U.S. drought monitor here that was released last Thursday on April 27th. They release this every single week on Thursday. So a new drought monitor will be coming out this Thursday on May 4th. But you do see the deeper reds here across the Central Plains from Nebraska, especially into western and central Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, northern Oklahoma, and the northern Texas Panhandle there. That's where we see the extreme and exceptional drought here And that is definitely what we're concerned about as we see that build. We might have some wildfire risk going through the month of May across this region. So that will definitely be something to keep an eye on. And looking at the U.S. monthly drought outlook here from the Climate Prediction Center through the month of May, this was just released the other day, yesterday on April 30th on Sunday. And you do see they are forecasting persistent drought across the central and southern plains here, especially through Nebraska, western Iowa, getting in through much of Kansas here, and the West Texas into the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma here as well. That is what we're seeing through the May timeframe. But we will start to, leave a little bit more of a dent in the drought down here into southwestern Kansas, Oklahoma, down into the Texas Hill Country. But we'll also be developing some drought likely in these yellow shaded colors across portions there of Kansas City, Kirksville, Missouri, Des Moines, up here into western Illinois. That creeps up farther to the north and east through the month of May. So let's look at the severe weather forecast. So I know a lot of people are wondering about the severe weather, what this could bring to the table through the month of May. Well, going through this week, we are basically all dry. We have not much moisture in the United States unless you live in Florida or the Rio Grande Valley or just immediately along the Gulf Coast like Lake Charles, New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, those areas. That's where all the moisture is through the day today. But look at the change in the pattern immediately toward late this week. This is on Friday, May 5th. And you do see, getting toward this upcoming weekend, we see a resurgence in the moisture. The dew points out here, you see the teal blues, also the purple showing up. Those are your 50, 60, and even 70-degree dew points out here with the highest moisture values down into Arkansas, Louisiana, western Mississippi, into East Texas here during that May 5th time frame. And we have a smaller shortwave troughs trying to eject slowly across the southern plains during this period. And I do believe the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted the day 4 outlook for Thursday for a slight risk of severe weather down into central Texas. I'll have more details on that in my video tomorrow morning, but I do think that the frequency of severe weather during the first 10 days in May will be 4 times higher in this orange outlined area across Nebraska up here toward the Lincoln, North Platte areas, getting in toward Omaha and even Des Moines, and as far south here as like the Tyler, Texas area, Dallas, Fort Worth, Shreveport, getting over here toward the Natchez, Mississippi area as well through the first 10 days there into May. And then looking beyond that, this is getting into the second week in May. We'll see a cold front move through, and we'll do this all over again, and we'll see moisture start to move farther south into Florida, the southeast, and along the immediate Gulf Coast there, and then in toward the Rio Grande Valley. So it looks like more of the instability will be highest with that cold front kind of ushering the higher moisture farther south into the second week in May once again. But watch what happens after Mother's Day weekend. So around Mother's Day weekend and shortly thereafter, we'll see another spike in our dew points. And this could go a little farther north than the first one. This could be reaching areas like South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and then all the way south into Texas, the southern plains, and the Gulf Coast during this period. And you can see some instability starting to build across portions there to the north, Wisconsin, Michigan, getting into Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas. So we definitely have to keep an eye on this going through the first few days there after Mother's Day or so, as we get toward the middle of May. And that is where the frequency of severe weather probably will be highest, 4 times higher in these areas outlined in the orange. Now, I will note that while you are in the orange in some of these areas, there will be some spots that probably won't see much severe weather. Could that happen up here in the Dakotas or Minnesota? Very well possible, but I think the majority of us in the orange shaded color will have some type of severe weather potential getting through that May 11th through the May 20th time frame here. So whether it's in Chicago, Milwaukee, La Crosse, down here into Des Moines, or even farther south into Little Rock, a majority of this orange shaded color will likely have more frequency of severe weather going through that May 11th through the 20th time frame. But we start backing off a little bit more on the severe storms in the Great Plains, unless you live up here in the Dakotas, just with that ridge trying to build back there toward the middle of May. And then we have that pattern again repeat itself into the third week in May. So this is May 21st. We have another cold front dropping down from the north. We'll get rid of the moisture for a time being across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and the Great Lakes. That will mean that more moisture will be farther south across the Arklatex, the southern plains, and much of the southern United States during the May 21st on average time frame into the third week into May. That's where the higher instability is here, the higher energy for thunderstorms, or just know this as thunderstorm fuel during that time frame. And looking at the last week into May, so this is the last few days into May, May 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, those time frames, I'm really getting more concerned about the pattern I'm seeing in the longer range weather models here. And this could change very well over the next couple of weeks. We could be talking about this now and then it could look completely different, but the trends are your friend. And I do think as we get through that last few days into May, this is averaging around the May 28 time frame. You see these purples showing up here. Those are at least 70-degree dew points on the map across portions of the Ohio Valley, the lower Midwest at least, and down across the Great Plains. And this, you see the brighter colors on our surface-based CAPE, which is Convective Available Potential Energy map, and you see that is starting to build really robustly down here across the central and southern plains, but even farther north with the stronger instability up here into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. And this pattern is going to be a little bit more interesting. I think we're going to start to transition more to convective wind events versus tornado outbreaks, I think, towards the second half of May, especially into the last week in May, as you see a ridge trying to build across the Great Plains here and into the southwest United States. We're going to see flow that is a little bit more enhanced over top of the ridge. Will we get ridge rider type of systems up here? And this would be a pattern conducive to what we call derechos. And what a derecho is a long-lived windstorm that travels hundreds of miles and in rare instances can produce wind gusts over 100 miles per hour for a widespread area as well. So that will be something to keep an eye on towards late May. So with that said, here is my severe weather frequency from May 21st through the 31st, all the way through the very last day of May. And there's two areas that I'm watching for more enhanced and intensity for severe weather potential. So the severe weather frequency, I've noticed the red up here in the 6% high or 6 times higher would be more frequent up here from like South Dakota through the Midwest into the Ohio Valley. This is the area I am concerned at. If you were in the orange or the red up in this area, so the medium orange or the red, I will be more concerned of a derecho potential for you during that May 21st through the 31st time frame. This could include, if all the ingredients come together with this just right, possibly a strong derecho potential, just depending on the parameters in place, that could produce wind gusts over hurricane force. So that will be something to watch if you live in the orange or red shaded color. The pattern is conducive to that. Does that mean that a derecho will be guaranteed to happen? Absolutely not, but the pattern is more favorable for that up across these orange and red areas to the north during that period. Now you do notice another medium orange area down here into Oklahoma, North Texas, and the Dixie Alley and like the Gulf Coast states during that 10-day period from May 21st through the 31st. That is where I have more elevated severe weather down here as well. That could also include more of an MCS pattern with more potential for derechos, but I think the derecho pattern will be a little bit farther to the north than down here to the south. But I think the pattern down across the southern plains and the Midwest and the Gulf Coast down here will be more conducive to supercell thunderstorms with more tornadoes, bigger hail events, bigger type of storms like that are more discrete in nature, more widely scattered, more organized severe weather, I think, during this period will be in this red shaded color. So just keep that in mind as we get towards late May. So let's kind of break down the derecho frequency by month. And statistically, May is the busiest month with the frequency for derechos. You see that at 22%, then that drops back to 20% in June, and then hops back up to 21% in July. So statistically and climatologically, May is favored for derechos across the United States. And looking at the climatology for that, you do see that up here in the Ohio Valley, portions of the Midwest, and even up toward the Twin Cities. You get one derecho every single year in the United States in this blue outlined area, but even into northeastern Oklahoma, southwestern Missouri, and northwest Arkansas, you see 4 derechos every 3 years. So that is the most frequent area there toward like Joplin, Missouri, Fort Smith, Fayetteville. Those are the areas, Tulsa, that we see more of our derechos more frequently during that time frame. So How these work is you have an anchored area of high pressure down here across, whether it's the southwestern United States or the southeast. You have airflow around the high pressure system. Every single high pressure system, the airflow is clockwise. But if you have a low pressure system, the airflow is counterclockwise around that. So again, remember, high pressure systems, clockwise airflow, and low pressure systems, you have counterclockwise flow. So what this means is you can get serial derechos or progressive derechos during this period, and it does look like progressive derechos are the stronger types. With research, progressive derechos are faster moving, that hence the name progressive, and they are usually stronger, producing those more rare instances of severe weather with wind gusts over 100 miles per hour and these types of derechos. And that is the type of derecho I would favor probably during late May if it did occur, would be the progressive derecho from the upper Midwest, the northern plains, down through the Ohio Valley, and into parts of the mid-Atlantic. So putting my entire official May forecast together for 2023, starting up here in the Pacific Northwest, I do believe it'll be warmer and stormier than normal across Washington State, Oregon, and Idaho in this purple area. Definitely seeing warm air, but it's definitely going to be unsettled through the month of May, very periodically across this region. And then south of there into California and Nevada, it's cooler than normal in the light blue areas. We will still see warm air from time to time, but when you average the entire month out of May, it will be likely below normal and cooler across those areas. Then up here into the yellow, into Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, we're going to start the month of May chilly like we're seeing right now, but then just wait about a week or two, and then we'll warm up very robustly toward the middle and end of May, towards Mother's Day weekend and beyond across those areas. So if you're waiting for warmer weather, wait just a little while longer in the yellow shaded colors here. If you live in those states, it will get warmer toward the end of May there. So definitely watch out for that. We have the dry weather, then rainy. So if you live in the Four Corners region into Utah, Arizona, Colorado, or New Mexico, it will start the month of May dry, but then trend rainier and rainier as the month goes on with that active subtropical jet moving in. That's what will bring more of the precipitation with the Pacific moisture across this region. And then underneath of that ridge, we're going to see soggy and flooding rain potential from Oklahoma to Texas to Arkansas, Louisiana here into Tennessee, the Carolinas, getting in towards Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. And those areas in the lighter green, that is where I favor the soggy weather, a lot of rainfall events, possibly some flash flooding events through the month of May when you have a lot of saturated soils across this region. In between, we're going to have a battle zone going on here in the red shaded color. So from South Dakota and down into the Central Plains there into Nebraska, Kansas, through the Midwest into Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, the Ohio Valley here into Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. Those are the areas where I think derechos will be more likely late into May, and just general severe, general severe weather overall during that month there of May. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I have dry air. But that's kind of what we were seeing going through the month there of May. And then it does trend drier, like I said. Here, just give me one moment. I got to drink of water real quick. All right. I think we're just about good here. My voice is giving out on me, guys. I apologize. But we have drier weather forecasts across the Northeast, New England, and down into the mid-Atlantic states, from Virginia, West Virginia, into Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, into New York, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, and towards Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. Those areas, and even Delaware, we will see more drier weather across those areas getting through the month of May. And again, like I said, a flash drought is possible. And what I mean by a flash drought is that we'll have a drought develop possibly in a quick fashion over a week or two span during this time frame. So that will be something to keep an eye on. Now turning to our last point of emphasis is our tropical weather. So we start to look at the tropics during the second half of May, especially in the Atlantic. We start to see those reds and yellows start to work in toward the middle and late portion of the month of May, but it really starts to take off toward the middle of summer in the Atlantic. But quickly, the Eastern Pacific Basin will become more active into late May and through June here, and it really spikes up very quickly through the early summer months here. And looking at the possible origin points of any systems through the first 10 days of May, We always have to look, especially down here in the Caribbean. I don't see any severe weather or any tropical systems during this period this year. During the first 10 days of May, I think pretty unfavorable conditions for any tropical development down here, besides any tropical rains or systems that move through with no wind or anything like that. I don't see that through the first 10 days into May. But going into May 11th through the 20th time frame, I do start to see more action in the Eastern Pacific, the Caribbean, down into the Western Atlantic as well. We'll have to watch especially the Eastern Pacific, because as we're getting to El Nino, that favors more action into the Eastern Pacific tropical-wise, and then we see a lot more of that over here into the western portions of the Atlantic, into the Caribbean and stuff like that at times as well. And then toward late May, non-coincidentally, it does look more active in the Eastern Pacific in general, climatologically, from May 21st through the 31st, and that's probably what we'll see as we transition to El Nino during this period. But there still will be some trouble that could be brewing for tropics down here and toward the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, or the Western Tropical Atlantic during this period. So again, we'll still watch you guys on the tropical side of things over in the Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Caribbean, but I think overall a slightly below average May for tropical systems across those areas, and we'll have above normal tropical weather, potentially at least slightly so, into the Eastern Pacific during this period. So looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies, currently it is pretty warm across the tropical Atlantic, from the western coastlines there of Africa through the Lesser Antilles here into the Greater Antilles and toward the Caribbean. It is pretty warm, but into the Gulf of Mexico we have some churning going on, a little bit cooler weather, but this will start to boil up again. We have a lot of warm waters in the Western Gulf right now. That's contributing to our severe weather and our dew points in the central United States, and it's also very warm and boiling warm at that across the western tropical Atlantic, right along the east coast of the United States, especially down here into East Florida and the Bahamas right now. So that is something to watch right now as well. And then going through May, right now it's warmer in the Eastern Pacific down here toward the Central Americas, west of Mexico, toward the Baja of California. We see these bluer anomalies showing up. It's cooler water temperatures for now, but I do think this will start to heat up in a big way as we get through the month of May and really into June as well. So we'll be watching for more active weather in the tropics across those areas. But if you guys want more additional weather forecast updates in addition to this channel with my videos and live streams, be sure to hit the description down below on this live stream or any of my videos, and follow me on Twitter at hweather420. I do post on there periodically throughout the week with a lot of great weather information, so be sure to do that as well with this across portions of the platforms there. So Twitter, you can follow me on there, and again, I will have more weather information going forward on there as well. So I'm going to open it up to questions. Does anybody have any questions regarding everything, all the information? I know, I apologize, that's a lot of information that I did go through with regards of temperature trends, precipitation trends, also the severe weather trends going through the month, the tropical weather trends. Any questions on anything I have gone through, I'll be open to answering any of the questions on here as well. Just ask down in the live stream chat. So I will be able to get to as many questions as possible going through this live stream. You can always rare hunting with Kenneth. You can always go back and watch this again, so no problem there. I'll have it. You can after the stream, you can go back and watch it. Is Florence, Alabama going to be really bad? Well, define really bad. Do you mean major heat waves, severe weather, flooding rains? What are you talking about with really bad? I do think with the Florence question, I think for your sake of things, it's going to be soggy and flooding rains. So if you're into Alabama or Mississippi, you're probably going to trend soggier and flooding with flooding rains through the month of May with regards to rainfall. So above average precipitation overall through those areas and toward Florence, Alabama. So you're going to see a lot of rain, possibly some severe storms from time to time, and possibly some flash flooding. So we'll watch that. This mega block didn't last long. They're not all the same. Every single blocking pattern lasts longer than others. Right now, it's trending through the week. We're in this omega blocking pattern, but as we go through this weekend, we'll start to break that down a little bit across the United States. Lee, you're the best, man. Thank you. I appreciate it, Lee. Thank you for joining. I appreciate your kind words. Thank you. Tornadoes, Ice Cream says. Yeah, tornadoes. So let me go here towards the severe weather forecast through the month. So right now, you're talking about Florence. I think you have a 2% or 2%, 2 times higher frequency of severe weather there into northwest Alabama through the first 10 days here in May. So probably not much in the way of severe weather there all the way through May 10th. But as we go through, say, the May 11th through the 20th time frame, you may start to see more active weather there into northern Alabama toward the Florence, Alabama area, getting in toward the second, maybe into the third week in May. This goes right through Mother's Day weekend. And then going in toward late May, this is May 21st through the 31st, again, a more elevated, four times higher frequency of severe weather down here, including Alabama and the Florence area there. This southern mode with the orange would be more favored for supercells and for tornadoes and very large hail like we've been seeing across Texas recently, stuff like that. So here in southern Illinois, our main risk is derechos and not tornadoes. Well, okay, so to break that down for you, there's always a chance of tornadoes with severe weather. I'll put that out there for, first and foremost. But right now through May 1st and 10th, it looks like southern Illinois, probably a lower probability of severe weather. I think going through the second and third weeks into May through the Mother's Day weekend, we'll start to see a little more frequency of severe weather in southern Illinois. This will include tornadoes. So during that second bout of severe weather toward the middle of the month, we'll probably see all three modes of severe weather in play during this time frame. And then getting through late May, it's going to transition more to convective wind events versus tornadoes. And that's usually climatologically what we see moving forward through, the late spring and summer. We see a smooth transition from, tornado outbreaks to more convective wind events with squall lines, derechos, and stuff like that. So yes, I think southern Illinois, you're right on the cusp there of 4 times higher to 6 times higher. If you're in the orange or the red up here, just watch out for derecho potential late May from May 21st through the 31st. Linda, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you, and happy early birthday, Linda. Thank you for joining. Much appreciated. Hope you have a great birthday there tomorrow. I believe that's what you said in my video, that your birthday is tomorrow. So happy early birthday to you. Hope you have a great night. Thanks for tuning in. You're welcome. You're definitely welcome. When is it supposed to storm in St. Louis? Well, later this weekend, there could be a chance for some storms, but if you're talking about severe weather, St. Louis, you're right on the line for severe weather the first 10 days there into May, with the frequency a little bit more elevated to your west. But then as we go in toward the middle of the month, we start to see 4 times higher severe weather frequency in St. Louis going through that May 11th through 20th time frame. But then the St. Louis area will be having to watch out May 21st through the 31st for a derecho or two to develop potentially during this period. Even though you're in the red and you're 6 times higher for frequency of severe weather, does not mean every single person or every single city inside of this area will see severe weather very frequently. There will just be areas in here that probably see severe weather more frequent than others and more intense severe weather than others do. But I just want to note that if you live in the orange and red, not everybody will see tons of severe weather during this period, but there will be several people or several communities that do see several times of severe weather and intensity of severe weather a lot higher during this period. So I did want to put that out there. Christy Manning, so for northeastern Kentucky, you see more derecho events and wind events, correct? Absolutely. I think the tornadoes will always be there, like I said. The tornadoes go hand in hand with severe weather. But as we have that transition toward late spring and early summer here, so toward late May, probably even into June as well, I think areas into Kentucky, especially northern and northeastern Kentucky, will be more into play for derecho events as well. And if one of these derechos, if we have a primed atmosphere enough for this, I wouldn't be surprised to see a strong derecho, winds that could be over hurricane force, 70, 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. Definitely on the table here if all the ingredients come together late May. But it also could not come together. So if all the ingredients don't come together and the mesoscale details by this period don't come together, then that considerably drops your severe weather threat. So just because, like I said, you're in that 4 times higher or 6 times higher area doesn't mean you'll see it necessarily in northeastern Kentucky. It just means your probability of seeing a derecho or severe weather event is much higher towards that period. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Thank you, but my birthday is tomorrow. All right, well, happy early birthday. Your birthday is tomorrow on Tuesday. Thank you for joining, Linda. Hope you have a great rest of your evening. Severe weather in May 21st. Yeah, absolutely. It looks more widespread toward late May. Hello, severe weather season. Yep, May is definitely very active for severe weather season. That is for sure. What's Fort Wayne's tornado possibility this week? For Indiana, nothing. There's going to be no severe weather for the most part into Indiana this week. You can see Indiana, for the most part, is out of it. It's possible we could have some lower end events into southwestern Indiana toward like Evansville, but other than that, northern Indiana, you're safe from severe weather for the most part for the first 10 days of May. It does become a little more elevated for you with frequency and intensity towards the May 11th through 20th time frame there into Fort Wayne, and then it becomes a little bit more impressive there towards late May. So May 21st through the 31st there. Melissa, you have that 6 times higher frequency and intensity for severe weather as well. So definitely watch out for that. And that does include derecho potential for you as well. It's been a windy day. Yeah, absolutely. It's been a very windy day. We got that pesky low pressure system, that upper level low that's spinning up here across the Great Lakes, bringing all the rainfall and all the unsettled conditions and windy weather, cold weather over the last, several days. And that looks to continue through at least the middle of this week. But it looks like hopefully as we get towards the middle and end of the week, we'll start to flip this pattern around a little bit for a lot of areas in the Midwest and the Great Lakes area, and even the Northeast too. So we'll definitely have to see what happens there. All right. Anybody got any more questions? Rain Maves, I've been in a storm bubble because the last good storm was in early April with pea-sized hail. Well, I think as you get towards, especially if you live in like the Midwest or the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, as we get deeper into May, you'll have more opportunities for severe weather. And make no mistake about it, even toward the middle and end of May, seeing these ominous colors of the oranges, how widespread they are, and the reds here, does not mean that every single day there's going to be an enhanced, a moderate, a high risk of severe weather. It just means that more frequently than not, there will be severe storms maybe every other day or maybe every few days. It doesn't mean every single day during this period there will be severe weather. Okay, there will be lulls in the severe weather threat during this period as well. You're welcome, Melissa. Thanks for asking. Definitely appreciate it. And you're also welcome too, Christy. Thank you for asking. Great questions tonight. I would love a nice thunderstorm for my birthday this year because last year it was partly cloudy and warm. Well, maybe. You never know. It depends on what the weather pattern is like for your area. Illinois just can't get a break. Well, right now, Illinois has a break. If you're talking about the cold weather, probably not. But severe weather, you have a break for now. But then toward late May, Illinois gets a little more active. And statistically, toward late May and especially into June, the severe weather starts to transition farther north and west as well. So we'll start to see that more in the upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Great Lakes. More severe weather, more frequency, more intensity of severe weather up in those areas toward late May into June anyway. So that is what we'll be seeing. You've had storms on your birthday before. Tyler, any questions, folks? Yeah, actually, absolutely. If you guys have any more questions, I am happy to answer them on this live stream here. We'll go till just around 8 o'clock or a little after, so I appreciate everybody joining. Again, if you have not yet pressed the like button, let's try to get up to 100 likes in today's live stream. I definitely appreciate it. And let's see how far we are away from 30,000 subscribers. Again, thanks to all the new subscribers out there. I definitely appreciate it. We're at 29,805 subscribers, so we only need 195 more people to subscribe, and we'll be at 30,000 on this channel. So thank you so much for the support, everybody. So if you have not subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button down below. It's free to do, and you definitely get detailed breakdowns of the weather every morning at 9 a.m. on this channel, including these live streams that I do periodically throughout the week and, through the month. So. Will there be tornado outbreaks in the south in the orange area? Yes, it's definitely possible. If you're talking about during the May 21st through the 31st time frame, this southern side of this elevated, frequency of severe weather, so from like Oklahoma into Texas, especially the Panhandle down to North Texas, eastward to Georgia, those areas will be more apt to seeing very large hail events and more tornadoes rather than convective wind events. But there still could be some significant wind events down here as well. It's just I think the tornado threat will be more prevalent late into May down here to the south than it is farther north. Farther north into this orange and red up here, I think it's more likely we see convective wind events, squall lines, derechos, hail, rather than tornadoes. But there still even could be tornadoes up to the north here as well, just more frequency of tornadoes farther south during this period. So hopefully that makes sense for you. Will there be a tornado outbreak in the second week of May? I can't say for sure, but I do think the probability is much higher for a tornado outbreak in the second week of May. But it's also possible that there's no tornado outbreaks into the second half of May. So we'll just continue to watch it. This is going to definitely be a unique May for sure. So I am from the west side of Detroit, Michigan. When is the next time there going to be a blockbuster severe thunderstorm outbreak in Detroit? Well, I would say through the first 10 days here of the month of May, you're not going to see any severe weather there in Detroit. You may see some showers, some thunderstorms, but the severe weather threat there in Detroit is going to be pretty muted, pretty minimized through the first 10 days there into May. Going toward the second, third week in May, toward Mother's Day weekend especially as well, we are going to be seeing the threat of severe weather increase for parts of the Detroit area there on westward. So like Chicago, Milwaukee, up here toward the Twin Cities and the Minneapolis, St. Paul, even up in the Dakotas, we'll start to see that. But yeah, Detroit, I think that gets a little bit more elevated, 2 times higher frequency and intensity there toward May 11th through the 20th. And then getting towards the end of May, May 3rd, 21st through the 31st, that's where Detroit, we start to see more potential for derechos, squall lines, convective wind events, hail, tornadoes, and stuff like that. So I think as May goes on, later that you get into May, I think Detroit starts to see more opportunities, at least, for severe storms the later we get into May. This May will never be forgotten. Well, I don't think we're talking about 2011 or 2013 type of May, but I think this May will be a little bit quieter in regards to the frequency of tornado outbreaks, but I think the convective wind events will probably outweigh the overall tornado threat through the month of May. Don't get me wrong, all it takes is one tornado to be devastating for an area, whether it's an EF0 or an EF5 or anything in between. It only takes one tornado to devastate a community, so we don't want any of that happening, but again, just goes to show you that you don't need a lot of tornadoes for that to happen. And again, you could have 2 tornadoes the whole month of May, and they could be devastating for a community, and that could be a memorable or never forgotten May for your area. So just keep that in mind as well. Hopefully that does not happen. Hopefully any of the tornadoes that occur will be in open areas away from people and in fields, open fields where no animals or no people are. So hopefully that occurs. But we'll always have to watch it here. We're in the 2 times higher for severe weather here in South Carolina for May, which isn't nothing to be concerned about at all. Yeah, South Carolina right now, I think you're trending more probably below normal with severe weather overall through May, but I'd say probably May 21st through the 31st. You'll definitely have to watch the potential for some damaging winds, hail, and tornadoes there even. But even just then, I think it's more of a 2 times higher threat there for South Carolina. So that's what it's looking like. Absolutely. Don't be scared. Be prepared for the storms. And I'll keep you prepared for the storms on this channel. Again, I pride myself on giving you guys the most accurate weather forecast on YouTube, so I'll continue to do that moving forward. Will it get hot at the end of May? Yes. That's a great question. We did go over that. So let me go back to that here. So here's late May. So actually, let's start here. So right after Mother's Day through May, like from May 15th through the 21st, you do see the majority of the lower 48 getting above normal temperatures. But I think as we get towards the last week or two there of May, from May 22nd through the 31st, this is where we could have an all-out heat wave, possibly some record high temperatures looking possible. The pattern does look conducive to that during that time frame. So well above normal temperatures, really anywhere east of the Rockies. We'll be watching for the heat wave late May. And then below normal temperatures, even slightly so down here into like California, the Sacramento Valley, getting down into Nevada, southwestern Utah, and Arizona there. So that's what we'll see there in toward late May. But yeah, the heat will be building in a big way. It will definitely get hot. Yeah, a lot of areas will be seeing our first 90s of the season, maybe our first 100-degree temperatures across the south into like Texas and those drought areas here into like Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, our first 100-degree temperatures possibly towards middle and late May. So we'll continue to watch that as well. Chances for northwest Georgia severe weather, thanks, Tyler says. Yeah, let's go back to that. Looking at severe weather there. Well, the first 10 days into May, we're not really seeing much in the way of severe weather for Georgia or northwest Georgia in particular there. Going into the second week, third week in May, this is May 11th through the 20th, we start seeing northwest Georgia right on the line there between 2 times and 4 times higher frequency. Probably more likely of damaging winds and hail, but we could still see tornadoes even during this period. And then it's more likely we see some severe weather there into the last week of May there from May 21st through the 31st, with again the southern mode being more hail and tornado producers, still seeing damaging winds, but I think the southern mode will have more instability to work with, more energy, some more tornado potential, and you have the access to the moisture quickly off the Gulf of Mexico here. And then to the north, more convective wind events. Are derechos like tornadoes? Absolutely not. Tornadoes are localized severe weather threats, and derechos are more widespread, so they are completely the opposite. Tornadoes spin, derechos move in a straight line. The word derecho means straight ahead, so you see straight line winds with derechos. Do you foresee any tornado outbreaks in the month of May? I do. I think there's going to be a few tornado outbreaks in May. They're probably more favored around the middle and late portion of the month. So from like Mother's Day weekend onward, I think the frequency and the intensity of our severe weather and tornado outbreaks will increase significantly during that period. How many tornado outbreaks, if any, there could be just one or there could be 5. I mean, it's very possible, but right now I think the higher chance of that occurring would be from Mother's Day weekend and beyond towards late May on May 31st. Yeah, derechos can produce tornado-like wind speeds, but they're more widespread. So you could see, 75, 90. There's even been a derecho, if you remember the August 10th, 2020 derecho in Iowa, produced 140 mile per hour straight line winds with no tornado in the Cedar Rapids and Iowa City area there in eastern Iowa. So that just goes to show you that you have a lot of energy, a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere, and a lot of heat building. That is what you see. That was actually during the morning into the afternoon hours. That was late morning that happened. So even earlier in the day. Will it get to 100 in Indiana? No, I don't think so. If it does, it'll be a couple times this year. I think it'll be a lot less hot in Indiana this season, with regards to 100-degree temperatures. Now, I do think there will be plenty of days into the 90s. Again, there could be 100-degree highs in Indiana at some point this summer, but or into May, into summer rather. If you're talking about May, no 100-degree temperatures in May. Maybe the summer though, but probably not a lot. Back on April 5th, 2017, Carolina Alley could have lived up to its name if it wasn't for the rainy and cooler conditions on that day, since there was a first time ever. Oh yeah, really? I haven't looked into that. Thank you for letting me know though. Appreciate it. Drew Ferguson, do you think that there will be tornadoes up in the northern part of the country, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, anywhere in the northern part of the country? Yes, there will still be tornado potential up there through May, especially, like I said, Mother's Day onward, from May 11th through the 20th especially, but then building toward late May. This will probably transition more to convective wind events, so more squall lines, derecho potential, but there still could be tornadoes associated with derechos. Or even any squall lines that move through, or what we call like QLCS lines, just fancy word for a squall line. So yeah, there still will be up to the north. So no tornado, but winds over. There still will be tornado potential to the north, guys. It doesn't mean there's not going to be any tornado. Whenever you're talking about severe weather, there's still going to be a chance for tornadoes to the north. I'm just saying that overall, the storm mode is going to change from tornado outbreaks more to convective wind events as we get later into May. That doesn't mean the tornadoes are done. We're not going to see any. There still will be tornadoes. It just doesn't mean that at all. There still will be tornadoes, even farther to the north. You think in Detroit, Michigan, the last 10 days of May, the 4 times severe weather frequency could change to a 6? Absolutely. I'll be updating this a little bit throughout the month. I may pop in later on this May with another video that shows a map completely different from this. Definitely possible. This has some wiggle room, but I do think that as we go through May, the derecho potential that you guys have seen up here into like North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern lower Michigan in the past couple of years will be more muted. I think the derechos will be a little bit farther south, at least the potential for them to occur will be a little bit farther south this year. So places like Chicago, Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio, maybe Detroit, and then down toward like Louisville, Des Moines, Omaha, those areas farther south into the lower Midwest and the lower Ohio Valley will have a higher opportunity for those convective wind events versus previous years. So that is what it's looking like. Yes, it will be updated later on this month. I'll be updating this. This is just what I see as of now. All right, this is what I see as of now. So I apologize if you guys are hearing anything in the background of the microphone. It's just somebody driving a motorcycle by my house, just so you know. So, but anybody else have any other questions regarding severe weather, rainfall, drought, tropical weather, heat waves, anything like that through May? Otherwise, I think I'll be getting ready to wrap this live stream up. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it. Again, any last questions, I'll be here for just a couple minutes longer. Otherwise, I will have another video update in the morning hours tomorrow, so I definitely appreciate it. And also, guys, be sure to follow me right here on HWeather420 on Twitter. So hit the description down below for additional weather forecast updates. Follow me on HWeather420 for more additional updates again periodically throughout the week. And again, this is my video release schedule. If you guys didn't see my community tab post the other day, we already did our May forecast today. Go watch that video that I posted this morning. I post them every single morning at 9 a.m. I will have another video coming out on May 8th. This is my official summer forecast. So we'll be looking ahead to June, July, and August in this month, or in this video. So we'll be doing that on May 8th. And then in the middle of the month, on Monday, May 15th, I will be going over my hurricane season forecast, and we'll be going over what to expect in the Atlantic, the Pacific Ocean basin during that period as well. All right, so that will be on Monday, May 15th. So those are the next 2 videos that I plan on releasing. Those both will be out, like all my other videos, at 9 o'clock in the morning, Central Daylight Time. Is Tornado Alley shifting? A little, I would say yes, a little bit farther to the east. Yes, definitely a possibility. There still has to be more data that comes out on that and research, but yeah, it looks like with stuff happening, yes, things are changing. Thank you so much for all that you do. Absolutely. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Thanks for the updates. Have a good night. Have a good night. You too as well, Saunders. Appreciate you joining. Do you think that there will be particularly strong tornadoes in the month of May in Nebraska or Iowa? I cannot say whether you're going to see any tornadoes at all or how strong they'll be. That will not be known until they happen. So I cannot tell you that. I am not that good at forecasting the tornadoes. So I'm good at forecasting tornadoes, but I'm talking about like the day of the event. I can't say whether or not there's going to be a massive EF5 hitting Omaha, Nebraska. I can't, nobody can predict that. So just watch out as you go through May. Again, the thing to take away from this video, if you're talking about severe weather, is right now we're in a lull in the severe weather. It's very quiet. We may have some severe weather down, especially back into Texas, the Texas Hill Country, North Texas, going in towards like this upcoming weekend. But then the frequency and intensity of the severe weather will return around Mother's Day onward there toward late May. So we'll be watching that. I'll have more video updates for you guys then. Especially with tropical systems. Absolutely. Yep. Tornadoes can happen with tropical systems as well, as long as they make landfall. The last 10 days of May will it be a major heat wave there in Michigan? Yeah, I think above normal temperatures in Michigan are likely into middle and late May. Probably our first heat wave of the season toward like the 21st, 31st time frame. So watch out for that. How bad will the severe weather season be this year? Looks pretty active still through the rest of May and into June. So buckle up, guys. It's going to be very active toward the end of May. It will come back. The active weather will come back. It might take some time because we got some cooler weather, but it will come back in a big way toward the middle and end of May. Thank you so much. Everybody give Amy a round of applause in the live stream chat. Thank you for just showing support. Thanks for the stream. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your $2 donation. Definitely goes a long way, Amy. Appreciate it. Hope you have a great rest of your evening as well. Thank you. Alrighty, guys. Well, that will wrap it up for today's live stream. Again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, hit the description down below and follow me on Twitter at hweather420 for additional weather forecast updates. This is my video release schedule. Again, we already put out my May forecast today, so go watch that video from start to finish. Like the video, leave a comment down below. I appreciate it. Also, my May 8th video at 9 a.m. will be my official summer forecast for 2023, and in the middle of this month on Monday, May 15th, right after Mother's Day, I will have a hurricane season forecast for 2023 for the Atlantic Basin and the Eastern Pacific Basin on this YouTube channel. So thank you so much, guys, for the support. I appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your Monday evening out there. I'll see you tomorrow with a new video tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Good night, everybody.